Come in. It's open.
That's not.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Yoder. I am one of the counselors here at West High School. Thank you for joining us. We have a number of folks in attendance this evening. We're just we are the West High counselors, and we are going to be sharing some information that we also shared today with the current eighth graders at Northwest Middle School. And so we are going to get started this evening. As things come up, please don't hesitate to let us know if you have specific questions. Again, we would encourage you to, if you have questions, to make sure that they're kind of broad general questions, and many of the questions we will be addressing as we go through the evening's presentation. If you have a very specific question regarding your child, I think one of the very last slides that we cover kind of talks about just we would encourage you to reach out to your child's counselor as some of those really very specific things can be hopefully then addressed on an individual basis. But without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. So kicking things off, we're gonna go in alphabetical order and kind of introduce ourselves and maybe what group we are counseling, who the students are that we will counsel, and then also maybe just kind of include your number of years that you've been in education as you go. So I'll have Mr. Bronner start things off.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Trey Bronner. I have the last names A through CI. This is my second year here at West High, and then third year as a school counselor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Johnson-Gott, and I have the last name CL through HI. This is my first year as a counselor here at West High, but I have been teaching, or I taught for, I think, 14 years here at West prior to this year.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Kelly Bergman. I work with students' last names HO through MI. I've been in education for 18 years, and this is my 13th year at West.
Again, Greg Yoder. I have students with last names ML through SA. I believe this is my 12th year as a counselor here at West, 25th year as a counselor overall, and maybe 29th year in education. Anyway, lots of wisdom, right? So yeah, that's who I am.
And my name is Shannon Arkfeld. This is my 6th year as a school counselor, my 2nd year at West High School. And I'm not going to tell you how many years I've been in education, a long time. Was in it right out of college and then left and then came back to it. So welcome. Very happy that everyone's here tonight. So for tonight, our goal is to help you understand who we are and how we can support your child. As Mr. Yoder said earlier, we did go over to the junior high today. We got to meet a lot of kids, explain to them what they can look forward to at West High. So hopefully you'll learn about Iowa City School District's graduation requirements. And then we're going to provide an overview of the registration process and online resources. If you have any questions, common questions for the group, we, of course, are going to welcome those at the end of our presentation. So registration week, we kicked it off this week. Today, as I said, we were over talking with your students. Tomorrow night, we're trying something new here at West High. It's the first time we've ever done this. We're going to have a curriculum night. It's open to all parents and all students from 3:30 to 7 o'clock. It will be kind of an open house feeling. All of the different areas of study here at West High will have a table set up in the lunchroom. You can walk around. You can ask teachers about different course offerings. The kids can explore what West High has to offer. And then on Friday, your 8th grade students will be taking a field trip to the CFI. It's one of our district buildings, which is located on the ACT campus. They will get an opportunity to learn more about elective courses that are offered here at West High School. And they will be learning that from students who have taken the courses. So rather than getting the adult perspective, they can ask students, what is Intro to Business like? Or what is exploratory art like? Hopefully they will take all this information, come back to you. You can discuss it over the weekend, try and figure out what courses you want to have your students sign up for. And then on Friday, January 31st, we will be going back over to the junior high where we'll help your student put all of that information into our computer program, Infinite Campus. And those will be the courses that they request for next year.
All right. So what do we do as school counselors? We help with course registration and planning. So what we're doing right now and into February and the end of February. We also help with scheduling. So when your student's schedule comes out in August, we just make sure that your students have the correct courses on their schedule. And then once it gets to about their junior, senior year, we'll talk a lot more about college research and applications. If a student is not planning on going to college, working with them to find a job after high school or any other pathway that they may choose. Kind of along the lines of that, help them with scholarship information. And then we just want to make sure that they are a well-rounded student, that they're thriving here at West High. So just helping them socially, emotionally, and also academically. Okay, so what's different in high school? This is a big one here. So grades really matter. Right now, we're working with freshmen, sophomores, juniors, even senior students, helping them kind of make up courses that they haven't passed. Credits are required in certain areas to meet graduation and college admission requirements, which we'll talk about here on this next slide. So definitely, encourage your student to work closely with your counselor. I encourage you guys as parents and guardians to work closely with us. If you have questions about anything, definitely send us an email, give us a call, so we can work with you guys. The final trimester grade in each course will count towards your student's overall GPA. And then this cumulative GPA through all 4 years of high school is what colleges are going to look at. We kind of like to say 3.0 or above will get students into, a 4-year school. Even outside of college, with the workforce, employers still want to see that good GPA. And then another thing, some students will see that's a little different is that high school has 7 periods compared to the 8 periods that they are currently going through at Northwest.
Yeah, I get the fun slide of graduation requirements. So you'll see at the very bottom, 305 credits are needed for graduation. That seems like a lot of credits, but each class is worth 5 credits per trimester. So credits add up very, very quickly. If a student takes a full schedule during their freshman year, they'll earn 105 of those credits. So again, seems like a lot, but they add up very fast. In terms of requirements, English is the only subject area where students are required to take it every year they're in high school. So for all 4 years, your students will take an English class. There are certain requirements that you need to meet in social studies, math, and science. You need 3 years of those. For students who are planning on going on into college, we do recommend 4 years, but we work with your students at that time to figure out which classes are best to take during their senior year. PE gets tricky. The law says that you have to somehow account for PE every year that you're in high school. So for some students, that means that they're waiving their PE requirement because they're in a sport, in marching band, or in choir. For other students, that means that they have a full academic schedule and they don't have room to take a PE. And for other students, that means that they're taking PE because they really like it and they enjoy it. So PE is probably the thing we have the most questions about because there's the most flexibility with. But as long as you're somehow accounting for PE every year you're in high school, you're going to be fine to meet that requirement. Every student has to take 1 trimester of health at some point during their high school career, but we strongly recommend that freshmen take care of that requirement so that way it opens up other opportunities for them to take different classes when they're upperclassmen. And then you finish out your other credits with just electives. So that could be world language, band, music, art, business, anything that's on the back of the registration form. Those are all the things that your kids get to choose to do instead of having to do. One thing you will not see on this slide is world language. So taking a world language or a foreign language like French or Spanish is not a graduation requirement. So you do not have to take a world language to earn a high school diploma. However, 2 years of the same world language are required for university admissions. So we like to advise that every student take at least 2 years of the same world language while they're still in high school to then open doors for them to be eligible to go to the university if they so choose. So again, world language is not required for graduation, but we do strongly encourage every student by the time they graduate high school to take at least 2 full years of the same world language. Okay, we have a ton of support programs at West High. So if you remember, getting good grades, doing the best that you can in your classes is really important to us. So we want to make sure that we have as many opportunities for students to get support as we can have. So if you want to keep clicking through those, Mr. Yoder, that would be great. The first one you'll see listed is called AVID. This stands for Achievement via Individual Determination. This is a program that we have in our school building. It also is an elective class that students take. It's typically designed for students who maybe are first generation. They know that they want to go to college, but they're not quite sure how to navigate all of those systems. So AVID is a class that will help not only keep them academically successful now, but also help them navigate a lot of those different arenas that you need to know how to navigate in order to go to college. Testing, different tours that they go on, all those kinds of things. So it's a great class, especially for students who are high achieving and possibly first generation. IJAG is a support class called Iowa Jobs for America's Graduates. A lot of students that take this class are not really sure what they want to do after high school, or they feel like they want to go directly into the workforce or learn a trade. So in that class, they're also going to get support on staying academically successful, but it also helps them grow in soft skills. So maybe that's interview skills. They might do job shadows or internships. You can run as part of an IJAG board and go represent our school both statewide and nationally. So it's really designed for students who maybe aren't really sure what they want to do, but they want to really grow for who they are and what they want to maybe do after high school. The last 3 are really academic interventions. So Success Center is kind of like a guided study hall. So it's a smaller class with a teacher that will help your student with organization, completing homework. Maybe they have to retake some assessments, communicate with teachers. So it's a class for those who maybe just generally struggle with school. They're very intelligent and they're very capable, but all of those little things, time management, organization, are a struggle, and a teacher's there to help them with that. STARS is a class that sometimes the junior high teachers will recommend students for. It is a reading strategies course. So if your student struggles with reading, which is a super important skill to have not only in high school and beyond, this is a class that can help them with their reading skills. And we also have a Thinking Mathematically course. So 3 years of math are required for graduation. Every student has to get through Algebra 2. So if math is a subject area that your student really struggles with, you may want to consider enrolling them in a class called Thinking Mathematically that will help support them in passing their math course. Okay. All of your students should have today brought home a green registration form. So it is one piece of paper, front and back, that has all the different classes that students are able to take as freshmen. We walked all of the students today through this entire sheet. So on the front page, the top section is what's called a course worksheet. So that is where students are able to enter in the classes that they're choosing to take to kind of see how everything might fit into their schedule. We often have a lot of freshmen that sign up for too many classes because we have so many fun things for students to take. So that's a great visual for you to fill out as you're picking the classes that you want your child to take to make sure that everything is fitting in within those 7 periods we have in our school day. The second half of that front page is going to be required classes. So anything that's listed on that front page is something that your child has to choose. So there's English, math, science, social studies, some sort of a PE, and a health. So again, those things on the front of the page are all things that students have to choose from. Everything on the back side of that registration form is fun stuff, electives. So you find your band there, your music, your engineering, your choir, your world languages, art, business, all of these different fun things that they have the opportunity to take. And really doing the curriculum night and also the field trip that all of the 8th graders are going to go on Friday is really going to allow them to explore all those different options that they have for classes that not only meet their interests, but also might prepare them for whatever it is that they want to do after high school.
All right, so I'm going to talk about some tools that you can use to kind of help navigate choosing courses and filling out the registration form. So before I talk about career pathways, I think it's worth mentioning that the school district website has the entire program of studies on it. So if you're looking for descriptions of courses, more information about like what grade level students have to be in to take courses or any possible prerequisites, you can find all of that in the program of studies. In addition to the program of studies, there's a really neat tool on the district website where you can look at career pathways. And this can help you kind of map out what students might take across their 4 years of high school if they have a particular career or career area in mind. So it's particularly useful to help identify elective classes. Like if your student has an interest in engineering, for example, and they want to kind of get a sense of what classes in terms of elective classes, as well as core classes would be good for them to take in high school, then they can go to that pathway and they can kind of look at what we have to offer that matches up with that. And there's everything from pre-med and nursing, which is more broad, to certified nursing assistants, to engineering, education, fashion. You can find a lot of different pathways there. And then while you're looking at course offerings, you're probably going to notice that we do have honors and advanced placement options. There's not a ton of these options available to 9th graders, but as they get into 10th grade and beyond, more and more of them become available. So when it comes to honors courses, the thing to recognize about those is that they will move at a faster pace. And they're going to cover more material and have more rigorous work requirements. So students need to be prepared to probably be doing a little bit more work outside of school if they're taking honors courses. But they're really good at preparing students for taking AP coursework, which I'll talk more about in a second, and also helping them get ready for college if they plan to go to college. So we have honors classes in our English department, our science department, as well as our math department. With advanced placement or AP coursework, these are college level courses that students can take in high school. So one thing to know about these classes is that they are weighted a little bit differently in a student's GPA. So we do have a 4-point GPA or scale, but if a student takes an advanced placement class and they get an A in the AP class, it's actually weighted as a 5. So it's kind of like if they got, like for example, if they got a B in the class, it would still be weighted like what a letter grade of an A would, just to reflect the more challenging nature of those courses. A couple of other things to know about advanced placement courses. Students do have the option to take an exam at the end of the year in May when they take an AP class, and that is what can potentially earn them college credit. So if they earn a passing grade on an AP exam, then as long as the college that they end up attending after high school accepts AP credit, then they can get college credit out of that course. Something else to know is that what they score on the AP exam has no impact on their grade in the class. So they could do poorly on the exam and still that wouldn't impact their grade or vice versa. Okay, yeah. Common questions then.
I think this is my turn, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. So jumping back in here, some common questions that we get every year. Start off with the English 9. All students, when they do registration, they will register for English 9. Students who wish to take on the additional rigor of an English 9 honors course will actually have the option to do that during the first trimester of school next fall. Um, our language arts department, bless their hearts, they felt very strongly that they wanted kids to get comfortable within the setting of the high school before they make that decision as to whether they want to do the additional rigor of the 9 honors course. So that is something that during the time span of the first trimester, they'll kind of lay out the options for kids, and then students can choose to sign on to do the work for the 9 honors versus the regular English 9 course. So that is something that they will be able to select later on down the line. Another option that students have during, I guess at this point though, when talking about social studies, all students as 9th graders on the registration form that they all received today, and also when they go online to do their registration through Infinite Campus, they can select between either American Studies or AP Human Geography. It's nice having Miss Johnson as part of our team now, because she once upon a time was teacher of AP Human Geography, and that's just been very helpful for us to have her perspective. But students, if they choose to take AP Human Geography, it is a good introductory AP course for students. It does fulfill a world history requirement for graduation, whereas the American Studies course will fulfill a US history requirement. So whether a student chooses to take American Studies as a 9th grader, they could always opt to take AP Human Geography as a sophomore. That's totally fine. We have a lot of students that choose that path. Or vice versa. They might choose to do AP Human Geography as a 9th grader, and then they can choose to take American Studies as a sophomore. So there is additionally an AP US History course that they could select as a sophomore, junior, or senior to take if they so choose. So that's kind of the difference between those two courses. One fulfills the world history, one fulfills the US history requirement. As mentioned before, we have a lot of PE options for students, and so this one gets a little bit more confusing. A lot of students that walk through the halls are also athletes. They're on different sports teams, and so a lot of times students will choose to take part in our performance PE program. The instructors down in the physical education department do an excellent job of really educating kids on how to effectively lift weights so that they don't hurt themselves. And a lot of coaches will encourage their students to take part in our performance PE classes, because they do recognize the merits of having students be as coordinated and athletic and strong as possible as they're doing different competitions, whether that be swimming, basketball, football, you name it, baseball. The stronger students, individuals are, the more effective they will be in their respective sports. So that is an option. In order to kind of get started, students will have to take a performance PE 1 class. Once they've completed that one, they can choose to take additional performance PE, although it is not required. They only need to take 1 trimester of a physical education course per year. But some will choose to take more than that, which is totally their choice. Depending on the season in which a student is planning to be in a sport. My very first period today in class, I had a young man who was interested in being in part of golf and track, which is a great combination of activities to be a part of. Golf for the boys typically takes place first trimester. Track typically is in the spring, and so that that student opted to do second trimester performance PE1 so that they weren't getting multiple workouts in the same day. And then that allowed them to kind of focus on their sports at those times. Additionally, with waivers, students can choose to waive a sport, but we do find that students who are involved typically opt to take those performance PE classes because they are very, very good for them. Additionally, so that's performance PE. Additionally, there are other waivers. So students can waive during a season in which they're in a sport if they so choose. They can also choose to waive if they're not in a sport, if they opt to take 7 classes, 7-year-long classes, and then they would not have room to take a physical education course, that's totally fine. That would be an example of a PE academic waiver, and so that is listed there underneath physical education on the registration form. Other things to consider on the next list, I have we mentioned that health is a requirement. The vast majority of our students choose to take health as 9th graders. If your child has a full schedule, is not able to fit in health class, they could choose to do an early bird health. That is an option. They could do that before school, and that usually we do that during the 3rd trimester. And additionally, if parents are interested, there is a waiver option for health. Usually that requires that they have to fill out some paperwork. And so if students have interest in that, they just need to we need to make note of that, and we'll get that taken care of with their Infinite Campus registration. Additionally, within electives, some students are currently, while in 8th grade, they're in both band and orchestra. That is something they could continue when they get to high school. Essentially, the band instructor and the orchestra instructor work well together, and so they alternate. So one day they go to band, one day they go to orchestra. It is in Infinite Campus and on the registration form, it is called band/orchestra. So that would be the selection that would need to be made there. And those classes, both band and orchestra, are offered during the same period. So kids don't have to devote 2 periods to taking those 2 things. They would just need 1 period for that. Choir would be a standalone all by itself. If that's something that students are wanting to take, they would need to sign on for that, the appropriate choir course. World languages, we had mentioned briefly before. On the registration form, you won't find the world languages on the front page. That is located on the 2nd page. We offer both Spanish and French. Students can take 1 through 4 and AP, and actually 5. So they could take like a French 5 or Spanish 5, which is actually considered the seal of biliteracy. So there's a lot of different things there. Usually those are pretty sequential. So if a student is currently in French or Spanish 1 this year, they typically would sign on to take either French or Spanish 2 next year, and then they would have the option, if they really enjoy the subject area, they could choose to take the honors in that level as well. IEPs and 504s, we have a number of students who have IEPs and 504 plans, accommodation plans, and as counselors, we work with the students that have 504 plans and make sure that those things get shared out to all the teachers. Typically, there is a case manager that manages the individualized education plans, and those are special education teachers who hold yearly meetings seeking feedback from teachers and whatnot, and they focus on typically goal areas for improvement, academic improvement. So we have all those things in place here. Usually, as the spring goes along, there's a day when the case managers from Northwest kind of communicate out to the case managers at West High so that there are not drops basically in coverage, and so they make sure that they communicate information. And a lot of times spring IEP meetings, a lot of times there's communication up to the high school, and because we want to make that transition as students come to high school as seamless as possible. Additionally, I think we have down here study hall. If students wish to take a study hall, they don't need to actually physically sign up for study hall. Any open period that is not requested will be automatically assigned a study hall as a 9th grader and a 10th grader. So you don't need to worry about that. The one last thing that's not listed on here, but we wanted to make note of, Foundations of Journalism is a class that is a prerequisite essentially for all students wanting to be part of our journalism program. So Foundations of Journalism is kind of the prerequisite for our newspaper, yearbook, and broadcast labs. Every year our students do really, really well at both a state and a national level with some of the publications they have. And so if your child is involved with those things, I can't talk enough about the positives that come out of that, and their, the strong correlation it has with the academics. And so those are always wonderful opportunities for kids to take part in. And at every turn, we strongly encourage students to be involved. It has a tremendous effect on how good a high school experience they have is when they really get involved, either be it through clubs, groups, activities, different organizations, and extracurriculars. That makes a huge difference at the high school level. Okay, as I mentioned before, if you have additional questions, we would encourage you to put those in the chat, and we will try and answer those as they come up. If it is a specific question regarding your child, I would encourage you to reach out to your specific counselor. And again, if you're unsure who your child's counselor is, I'm just going to list them here, and as well as our contact information. Obviously, we were out of the office today. We plan to be back tomorrow and Friday to be able to answer questions as they come up. But you can email us. You can always try and call. We'd love to visit with students. We are planning to be at the 8th grade event that will be taking place at the CFI on Friday. Some of us for half day, some of us for the whole day. So those are just a couple things for you all to be aware of. In case you're unaware, there's a Q&A that you can folks can post questions to. So one of the questions is there a list of clubs, programs for students to look through somewhere? I believe on our website, there is a list of all the comprehensive clubs that exist. So again, it's just a matter of going to West High's website. There are many, many different questions, or many, many different clubs, excuse me. I know over the years, we've had a lot of different clubs and activities. Some of them go dormant at times. COVID kind of took care of some things, but yeah, we truly have everything from book club to zombie club and everything in between. I think some of these things are getting answered as we go. The one question I see, does my child have to take 4 years of math? In order to graduate, students will have to complete 3 years of math. In order to be, colleges would actually tell you that they would like to see 4, meaning starting with Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and they'd love to see a pre-calculus. But the minimum requirement is 3 years. That would be through Algebra 2. Is journalism a required class to join the yearbook club? Yes, it is. And that yearbook is a year-long course, but journalism is, the Foundations of Journalism is a required prerequisite for yearbook. I'll just jump in on the PLTW and tech courses. Prereq relationships, the entry-level courses would be the Principles of Engineering and Introduction to Engineering Design. Once a student has taken those, they could then jump into either Civil Engineering and Architecture, CEA, or Aerospace Engineering. So those would all fit that bill. Yeah. Other things to consider within that realm would be, if a student has interest in engineering, would be the computer science coursework. So like Computer Science Principles, which is a dual credit class with Kirkwood, as well as an AP Computer Science course as well. There's a question, can we complete registration with our student in campus anytime before January 31st? Yes, you may do that. As we go back over to the junior highs, we will verify that the registration form that they have matches what they actually have in Infinite Campus. If we need to make an adjustment to something, we will obviously do so, and then students will be able to see what courses are actually in there. Okay. Yes, PE waiver discussion. Student, if they're in a sport, they can choose to waive. Again, many coaches would encourage students, if they're in a sport, to be active with our performance PE classes. But it is an option that students can waive. The other option for a waiver would be a PE academic waiver. That could be there as well. Does 8th grade Spanish count toward the recommended 2 years of world language? Yes, it does. Spanish 1, French 1, taken in 8th grade will show up on a high school transcript when a student gets to high school. So that will also go with them as they go off to college at the end of when they are a senior. So our students registering only for 9th grade, that is correct. Students will be filling out a 4-year plan at some point, so they can start putting in additional courses for sophomore, junior, and senior years. If they put something in as 8th graders, does that mean they have to take those classes? No, it does not, but sometimes it's super helpful to kind of plan out all 4 years so that you're not surprised. That because sometimes those slots fill up really quickly between band, choir, language, pre-engineering coursework, all that stuff. So there's a lot of different things to take into account, and whenever possible, I would encourage you to plan out as much as you can, obviously knowing that things can adjust in future years. And while a student might sign on to do an AP, they might change their mind and choose to do a different AP course. These are great questions, by the way. I'm just going to keep answering them. Do students have to continue a world language after 8th and 9th grade? Students don't have to continue. The way it works, we usually cite the University of Iowa because they're closest to us. Students, to be admitted, have to have 2 years in order to fulfill the University of Iowa's graduation requirement. If a student completes 4 years in high school, they don't have to take any additional years when they get to college. So if you consider that, it's kind of it's basically them not having to pay for their college education, and it's a lot easier because it's a year long. They don't go nearly as fast as what they do in college. So that's what that would be my recommendation as a former Spanish teacher as well. Question is, can my child take both geometry and algebra 2 in the same year? Yes, that is a possibility. I would encourage you to only consider doing that if your child does really, really well in algebra 1 and really masters the content of the course. Because if a student kind of gets a B or a C in algebra 1, that course is super foundational to subsequent courses that will come down the line. And if they didn't really master the content of algebra 1, it'll make geometry and algebra 2 really difficult. Excuse me. All right. There's a lot of good questions there. I think I see 27. So my peers have been very busy. It's easier for me to talk than type, apparently. So I drew the long straw on that end. If there aren't any additional questions, we appreciate your time today, and please don't hesitate. Again, just a reminder, tomorrow we'll have the same presentation, but live and in person here at West High. And yes, students and parents can come to the curriculum night here at West High. you can hear the same exact presentation if you want, but live and in person. But if you got what you need out of us this evening, awesome. We are recording it, so we do hope to kind of share that information out to everybody, just in case you want to go back and re-clarify something. And but we just ask that you be kind to us if we misspoke in one way or another. So, but thank you guys for your time this evening. We greatly appreciate it. And go West.
Thank you.